Not only is she an author, she's an activist, she's a motivational speaker, but before all of that, she is a mother. And when you are a mother and you hear her story, you are going to understand that she went through all types of trials and all types of giants and everything in her life just to fight for her baby. Without further ado, giving her signature speech, Taking Down Your Giants, I want everybody on your feet, stand up, stand up, stand up. Everybody on your feet, please welcome Miss Linda J. McCoy.
I want to thank Brandy for that song. Truly, he is a friend of mine. I thank you for that. That was a timely song. Good evening, everyone. I am so glad to be here today in such blessed and beautiful company. First of all, I want to thank God for being so good to me. I also want to take a moment to thank the people who invited me here today, Pastor and Co-Pastor Holmes. I want to take this opportunity to thank my sons, Darian and CJ, for their love and support throughout this journey. I also want to honor my mother, who is not able to be here today, for her love, her faithfulness, and her support. She is truly my best friend, my mentor, and my confidant. I would not have made it without my mother. I want to speak to you today about taking down your giants. Okay, now, we know that giants do exist. Okay, let me tell you, in case you didn't know, they're your bills, your car notes, foreclosures, and divorces. And Sister Linda knows about all of those things. It's all about the obstacles in your life. Those are the real life giants. Now, to tell you about a giant, or the giant that I faced, I have to tell you about an extraordinary man that I know. He is happy and full of life. He is God-fearing and goes to church every Sunday. He loves his family. He spends time with his friends. He goes out on the weekends. He is a giving person. He visits hospitals to encourage patients. He spends time with them and inspire them. He takes it a little further. He gives them clothing, music, or anything he thinks they might need that's within his reach. And in addition to all these things, he is also a businessman. He is the CEO of Darling Publishing Company, and he's very active in our ministry, 5 Loaves of Bread, Miracle Care Outreach. Now, if you never met him and just knew him for what I told you, you would never guess that this man is paralyzed from the mouth down and cannot breathe on his own. The man that I am describing to you is my son, Darian. 16 years ago, he suffered 2 consecutive head injuries on his job. His company did not take the right steps to ensure his safety, and as a result, he ended up paralyzed and unable to breathe on his own. Now, the doctors told me that my son's case was extremely rare, and that he would not live. So for years, and I'm talking years, I fought against the insurance company and the healthcare system for my son's right to live. It was the hardest and the longest struggle we've ever faced. At one point, it seemed like we were up against a wall. But I'm here to tell each and every one of you today, please know this. giants, they fall. They do fall. I'm here to tell you, giants fall. And I know, because today, 16 years later, my son Darian is living. And he has a fulfilled life because we stayed the course. We remained spiritual, kept our relationship intact with God, and we never let anything keep us from overcoming our giant. Now, I'm going to give you 5 tips on how to take down your giant. Now would be a good time to take your pen and your paper out. So now, tip 1. When you're faced with a life-altering change, face your fears. I talked about how scary giants can be, but it's important that you don't allow challenges to stop you or intimidate you to the point that you give up. The important thing to know about fear is that it's self-created. So we need to get out of the mindset that our challenges are too big for us to overcome. Because those thoughts and ideas feed our anxiety and make the situation worse. Now, nothing is as good or as bad as it seems. It's only as good and as bad as you perceive it. So if you change your mindset, you change your reality. Now, my son, Darren, and I, we have this little thing. We have this phrase that we use whenever fear try to creep in, which is that fear, F-E-A-R, is false evidence appearing to be real. You might want to write that down. Write that one down. Fear, false evidence appearing to be real. And we would say this to each other when he was going through a tough time and when he was about to go into respiratory failure. It's because we didn't allow the fear to take over that we were able to save his life. I didn't allow myself to believe that the insurance company was too big for me to take on, or that I wasn't going to win, or that he wasn't going to make it. If I had allowed those thoughts to take over, I would have never accomplished what I did. The next step to taking down your giant is educate yourself about your circumstances. Write that down. You need to educate yourself about your circumstances. Find resources that can help you overcome what you're going through. That's tip number 2. When you're battling against your giants, you need to know what you're up against. We definitely live in an information age. Anything that you could possibly want to know is right at your fingertips. And the internet is a powerful tool. Please take advantage of it. When I faced my giant, I was up against one of the largest health insurance carriers in the world. They were denying my son the type of care he needed to survive because of the extent of his injury and the cost. Now, doctors believed Darren wouldn't survive because no one had ever lived with his injury. And listen to me real good when I say this. There was no way I was going to be able to walk into a lawyer's office or a courtroom and convince people that I had a case unless I knew about the health insurance industry and about my son's condition and what sort of care he required. You know what I did? I researched. I found resources. I went through the process of educating myself, and it paid off in the end. Tip 3, implement and follow through. Now, education is great, but it's what you do with the information that really, really matters. So So after you educate yourself, you need to follow through by taking physical actions to take down your giant. And this is a time-consuming part because it can take weeks, months, and even years of doing before you actually see results. Now listen, these are giants we're talking about. They're the heavy hitters of life's problems, so they may take a while to fall. I battled with the insurance company for 16 years, going back and forth, writing letters, appealing, going to court, gathering evidence, and so forth and so on. It was a long and laborious process, but I would not take nothing for my journey. Well, this next step may be the absolute hardest thing for most of us to do when we're in a tough situation. Guess what that is? Keep trying. Never, never throw in the towel. That's tip number 4. And it's also the name of our book. You need to keep persevering until you produce. And let me tell you why it's so difficult for most of us to persevere. First of all, because we don't want to face our fears. When you are facing a challenge, you may need to keep reminding yourself to keep going. It's hard and it's painful, but keep going. See, challenges happen for a reason. And the most important thing for us to do when we are taking down our giants is to walk away with the lesson. That's tip number 5. It's a lesson. I believe that everyone has a purpose and every experience is a learning one. I want to be the last person to ever go through the trial I went through. I believe that was the purpose of me going through all the trouble. And now I'm proud to say a law has been passed in the state of Florida so that what happened to my son, it won't happen to anybody else in the state of Florida. Going through the trial is also finding purpose. My son went through a lot, but my son's life has purpose. Look at him, he's happy and well and living his testimony to the world so it will help others. He has purpose. Now you see him sitting in that wheelchair. You see him hooked up to those apparatus on a breathing machine. But you're looking at a man that I just described to you that's living his purpose. Did you hear about all the things that I said that he did? Now how many of you all go to the hospital to visit people? How many of you? Take a look at that young man. I'm talking about living your purpose. When this first happened to my son, I told him Jesus didn't stop in the Garden of Gethsemane. He took it to the cross until he said it is finished. I don't care if you can't talk. I don't care if you can't breathe. You have your mind and you shall live. If you leave here today with nothing else, I want you to know this. You can face your giants. You can defeat them. And you can recover. Faith, perseverance, and love will see you through. Thank you for allowing me to become a part of your lives today, in your hearts, and hopefully help you change your circumstances. Thank you so much.